Today I'm going to do an experiment using Resincrete and some wood. I've just got a little thin bit of wood here, which is about the depth of these molds, which is great, and I'm going to try and combine the two. But before I do that, what I want to do is make sure that this is lovely and smooth to get a nice finish to it. So I'm going to quickly sand that off both sides to get it nice and smooth. And that's not going to take too long. I'm going to go over it with a couple of grits from 180 probably to about 320, and that will make a massive difference. That's already really smooth, and that's got a nice grain in it. It's just a piece of pine. So now I'm going to quickly work down my grits, and then I'll show you what I've got planned for it next. Now I've got that all lovely and smooth, I've also cut some smaller bits, and I actually want to have these bits broken. I don't want them to be flat edged like this. So what I'm doing is just breaking bits off them like that. Now that I don't want that like that there, because that is not looking as good as I would like it. Get rid of some of those bits, trim them up. I didn't want a completely flat edge there. So now, for instance, that bit could go in there. And then I can break another bit off there, and that can go in somewhere else. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to carry on breaking up some of these bits, and then I'll show you what I'm going to do next with it. Well, I really have no idea how this is going to turn out or whether it's going to be work, but I can't wait to see. I've decided on this is the patterns that I want, or this is where I want my wood. So the next thing to do is, I think, is probably going to be to stain the wood, although I am going to sand it afterwards, and when I sand it, that's probably going to remove all that stain. Now I know that this is going to stick, well, I don't actually know. I'm sure this is going to stick to the Resincrete okay, because wood is porous and that'll absorb into that and then give it a really nice finish, but we'll see. So what I'm going to do is mix up my Resincrete now. As always, make sure you've got a good scale to mix it up with, and you can mix up in whatever units you wish to mix up in. I use grams because that's what I'm used to using, but if you don't use grams, then use ounces or whatever you want to use. So I've got that tared to 0 grams. What I'm going to do now is put 100 grams of Resincrete in there. Now I probably will need more than 100 grams. I'm going to do 150 grams. So that means I'll need 45 grams of water. There we go, spot on 150 grams. And now 45 grams of water. Get my trusty fork, because I always now mix my Resincrete with a fork. It mixes it so much easier, and also it gets rid of any lumps and everything, any little lumps and bumps. I could add some colour in at this stage. Shall I add some colour? No, what I might do is I think I'm going to do some white, and then others I'm going to add some colour to. So I'm going to pour this in. Now I know it's going to need some sanding, so I'm not too worried about that. No, it hasn't floated, which is not too bad. It looks a little bit more fun having it broken as well. Oh no, I might have enough. I'll do those last two with a little bit of colour in it. I'm going to use the yellow. Oh look, I've got a bit of yellow in that one. Oh, is anyone surprised? Oh, and in that one. So what I'm going to do is let those cure up before I do the next stage. These should be cured enough now to be able to take them out of the mould, but they're not cured enough for me to do the next stage on them. So what I'm going to do is take them out of the molds now like this, and then leave them to cure up and go really, really hard in the next day or so. Now if you wanted to speed this up, you could put them in a curing box, and that would speed it up dramatically. So when those are finished curing up, I'll come back to you and I'll show you what I'm going to do with it next. Well, I've had these in my curing box now for a couple of hours, and what I didn't realise was I've already started to sand them and I hadn't turned on the blimmin' camera. So I apologise for that. So those 3 are already done, but I will quickly show you how I'm going to do it. So if you haven't got a sander like this, you can use normal sandpaper to do it with, and that's fairly easy. All you need to do is put it to one like that, upside down, and then sand. Doesn't take too long. Then you'll reveal the wood on the front of it. Now, it's the next part that I don't know whether it's going to work or not, or whether it's going to ruin it, to be perfectly honest. But that's come out really well, similar to those. So I'm going to go ahead and I'll finish off sanding these like this. It literally takes seconds. And then I'll show you what I'm going to do next. So now I've got those all sanded, what I'm going to do is give them a quick wipe to get rid of any additional dust. And they're looking really nice so far. That wood in there, I think, looks like a skyline of skyscrapers. Now, I did break one, but I'm not too bothered. I knocked the end off one. So, and that's the one that had my favourite piece of wood in it as well. But there we go. And like I said, this was an experiment anyway. I wasn't sure if it was going to work or not. Now what I want to do is get a soft brush and some stain. And this is the first one I'm going to do like this. Because, to be perfectly honest, that's my least favourite one. I'm going to give my stain a shake. Now, I'm not sure if this is going to bleed straight into the Resincrete, because the Resincrete is quite porous, but we can have a look. I'm going to paint this on. And this is a Jacobean dark oak I'm using here. Well, that's not too bad. I think that's come out okay. I'll leave that a few minutes and see if that soaks in. I'm going to do another one, actually. I'm going to do that one as well, and then we'll see how well that soaks in and whether it bleeds into the Resincrete or not. I do like the way the coloured ones have come out. Oh look, I'm getting carried away now. I said I was only going to do one more. Yeah, I'm quite happy with that, and that's not bled into there at all. So what else I'm going to do is I'm also going to do some in Indian rosewood. If I do 3 and 4. Well, actually, I could do one bit of Indian rosewood on this and one bit of Jacobean oak. So I'm going to go ahead, I'll finish off doing these, and then I'll show you how I'm going to actually seal them and get them looking glossy. These are all nice and dry now, and what I can do is I can varnish these, and I'm going to also varnish the wood and the Resincrete as well, because I've got one more step I want to do with these, because at the moment they're pretty enough, but they're a bit boring. So I'm using the gloss sealer, and all I'm doing is running over that. Now, I'm going to give it 2 coats of this to make sure it's fully sealed before I do the next step. Not only will this bring that wood out lovely, but it'll also allow me to do the next step. It won't take too long to dry, and then I can move on. The last thing I'm going to do to decorate these is I've got these temporary tattoos. Now, I love temporary tattoos, and I always have a massive stock of them because they are so cheap and they do some wonderful things. Now we've put the sealer on, these will actually stick to the wood as well as the Resincrete. Remember always, though, to take your little plastic off the front before you put them on. Believe me, I know, because I forget so often. These will then stick to whatever you want to use, and because we're using Resincrete and it's lovely and white, then the colours should show up superbly well under that. The wood colour will affect the colour of the tattoo a little bit, but you'll still be able to see it. Now we've got those on there, what we need to do is damp those down until the backing will move off. And all I use is a little bit of water here. Let's move those out of the way so I don't get them all wet. And then a sponge. What you don't want to do is soak these right the way through. You want enough water on them that you can then remove this backing. It's not going to affect the Resincrete, the water, because the Resincrete has been sealed with that waterproof sealer. Now what I'll do is I'll leave those for a minute, and then I will go over and damp them a little bit again. So now they've had 1 minute, what I'm going to do is just go over them again with some more water, and then leave them for another minute or 2 before I remove the backing. Well, these should be wet enough now to be able to release them. All I do for these is, rather than try and slide them off, I put a little blade under them gently and lift it off, because that way you don't tend to disrupt the actual tattoo itself. So all you have to do here is pop your knife under it and lift it up very gently, and then let them fully dry. It may take half an hour to fully dry, but we want them fully dry before we do the next stage and final stage, which is to seal those tattoos to ensure that they are fully sealed and aren't going to scratch off or come off. Well, they're lovely and dry now, and the last thing to do is to put a last coat of this Resincrete sealer over the top of the temporary tattoos, and that will seal them on here perfectly. And it really does protect them against scratches and wear and tear and things like that. It'll also give them a lovely gloss shine. When I've finished this and they're dry, I'll show you how nice they look made up as pendants. Well, these are all finished now. They're lovely and dry, and look how much nicer they come out with that really glossy finish. And then just adding those little final details to them. I am blown away by these. I think these are going to be so popular. They're very light as well, and the light catches them and glistens in them so well. I'm not sure which one my favourite one is. I love that. I think that looks beautiful, and that was the one I didn't stain the wood. And for some reason, I didn't make that one into a necklace. I don't know why. I'll do that in a minute. I love that one as well. Which one's your favourite? That's a little cute one, isn't it? With the little bally shoes on it. Look how glossy that is. So there we go. Really easy to use. Gives a great result. And I think they're very, very different. And the other thing is, they're lovely and light. If you want to learn more about Resincrete and how you can really make some good money using it, then check out the video I've got coming up now. I think you'll really enjoy that one. Boost the like button, hit the subscribe button, but most of all, enjoy your resin. Take care. Bye.